Hey there, and welcome to Goddess on the Rise. I am your host, Sarah Berg, and this podcast is all about empowering women, living in your truth, loving your body as it is in your journey to self-love. You can find this podcast to be real, raw, authentic, and truth. So buckle up, girlfriend, because we are going for a ride. Hey there, and welcome to this episode all about self-love. I am your host, Sarah Berg, and I'm excited to talk about this topic. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was struggling, which is really funny because I run a Facebook group called the Self-Love Club. And if you're not in it, it's completely free to join. Find it on Facebook or check today's show notes to find it there. But basically, this group is all about me teaching other women how to love themselves. And yet, for some reason, when I was thinking of this podcast, I was literally dreading it. I had no idea what I was going to say. When I started to think about this topic, I just kept thinking what are you even gonna say? And I've reached out to my sister about probably 100 times and was like, what should I say? What should I say? It is Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. and this episode is supposed to air on Thursday. And that's how long I procrastinated on talking about this topic. I think that has a lot to do with where I'm at in this season of my life. It's just one of the things that I've been struggling with personally. So how the heck am I supposed to help anybody else when I am struggling looking in the mirror? And I think that's when it kind of dawned on me that is self-love, recognizing that. And self-love doesn't have to be anything extraordinary or luxurious or I don't know. I think we get so caught up in this word self-love and the meaning behind it. But I think the real self-love is not pretty. It's the hard work. It's the work that no one sees. It's the work that makes you cry, makes you want to break something, maybe makes you angry. It's working on yourself. The good parts, the bad parts, the ugly parts, the parts that no one knows about. And I think I went through this a long time ago. Basically, I feel like always growing up, I never looked in the mirror and thought I was pretty. Never once, actually. My gosh, I don't even know when I first thought I actually looked pretty. I think it was probably when I was 19, 20, when I first met my husband. I'm just thinking about this. I don't ever remember being like, wow, I'm really pretty. I mean, now I can look in the mirror and be like, holy moly, you're a 10 out of 10 today, girl. But then, I'm just going to say that there's some days where I'm like, oof, girl, you be looking like a busted can of biscuits. It's the truth. You're not going to be perfect or feel good every single day. And if anybody's telling you that, they're lying to you. They are lying. Run. But in high school and middle school, I remember comparing myself to some of my bestest girlfriends, thinking even in pictures, I was always looking back oh my God, they are so much prettier than me. And it's so funny because now looking back, I was like, dang, I looked good. I had this beautiful long hair. I'm not gonna lie, I was like curvy, but I was really thin. And for some reason, I thought all my friends around me were skinnier than me. But like, that was not the case. Like, looking back, like, we literally looked the exact same. So I'm so confused of why I thought that. I'm not actually confused. I shouldn't say that. I worked through that part and I know exactly why I felt the way I had felt. And it's just, it was what it was, you know. But now I'm just so much more aware of that. And I think that's kind of the beginning. That's the beginning of loving yourself. You're not just going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, I'm going to love myself today. You know, there's this quote that I just freaking love. If you have children in the room, maybe you want to remove them. I don't know how you are, but I'm going to use a cuss word. I'm just going to say it. But there's this quote and it says, might go ahead and fuck around and love myself today. And if I could like wear that on a shirt 24/7, I probably would, because I freaking love that quote. Like, I just love it so much because it's so true. I think that we just put too much into this self-love and self-care. It's so hyped up. It's such a trigger word. It's such a word, like everybody's like, self-love Sunday, doing my face mask. Like, no, sorry, Susie, that's not self-love. Sure, can it be a way to love yourself a little bit more? Yes, it can. But the true self-love is the kind that no one wants to talk about. It's the kind where you're sitting by yourself and you're sobbing because you're not who you want to be. You don't feel like you're in the right body. You feel like you're lost. You feel hopeless. You feel down and depressed, and maybe you have panic attacks, and maybe all this anxiety, all this guilt, all this randomness, things that you don't understand why you are feeling, and you're feeling them, and you're working through them, and you're allowing yourself to have those emotions, those feelings. That is self-love. Self-love is when you can look in the mirror and say, you know what? I really do like my eyes today. Or you know what? I'm going to be myself today. That is self-love. Self-love is looking in the mirror and saying, you are seen. You are heard. I validate you, to yourself. Saying those things to yourself. Comforting that inner child that's been in you forever. That is self-love. The ugly, ugly parts of self-love. And I think that's when I first learned how to love myself. I just looked in the mirror and I knew I didn't want to be that anymore. That person who is so depressed and sad, who looked for love in places love did not exist. I didn't want to be that anymore. And I don't think I actually knew at that moment how to change that, but I figured it out really fast. I joined a company, an MLM. Yeah, I know some of them get bad reps, whatever. But honestly, it changed my life. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, end of story. But one of the things in the MLM that we were taught was personal development. Like, I just felt, I'm still with that company today, and I just felt like they cared about us. And one of the things that they always preached was personal development. How the heck are you going to help someone if you can't even help yourself, right? And I'd never even known what a personal development book was. And then I read one. And I think one of the first ones I had read was You Are a Badass. And then I read You Are Made for a God-Sized Dream. And then I read Goddess Revolution, I think it was. And then I read 50 Ways to Happiness. I just read all these. I couldn't get enough at that point. They were addicting because they gave me hope. They made me realize that other people in the world are really fucked up too. It's not just me. And it made me work through some things that I had no idea I needed to work through. And now it's funny because looking back, that was probably like 5 or 6 years ago that I went through this. And looking back now, I'm like, oh, honey, Little did you know you were only skimming the surface. Like now, where I'm at today, I'm working on those demons, those things that no one knows about, those things that are quiet in your mind and you don't want to say out loud. That is what I'm working on today. Like I'm doing the work, girl. Like I'm doing it. And it's not easy. And not every day is rainbows and butterflies and sunshines and self-care, face masks, bath bombs, massages. That's not what it is. It's me getting real with myself and answering those questions of why I am who I am today. Why can I not love myself? And that's what you need to ask yourself. Why can't you love yourself? What is it? What are the deep, dark things that you're hiding? And maybe you journal about them, or maybe you should sit with them. But just know that it is okay. Whatever it is, you can work through it. You can get there. There's plenty of resources out there. Now, upon doing this, thinking about this podcast, I was doing everything I possibly could. I was going through Pinterest. I was going through blogs. I was listening to podcasts because I was like, what? How the heck am I going to do this? And then I was like, you know what? Just talk. Just share your truth, Sarah. Share where you're at with self-love. Just share it. And upon doing that, upon thinking about what I was going to say, I came across some amazing quotes on Pinterest. And I want to read some of them to you today because they are amazing. And it was like I was saying it, my thoughts out loud. All right, here's one. Okay, so this one's called Self-Love. And it says, you don't just wake up someday and fall in love with yourself. It takes time. It takes patience, but more than that, it takes self-compassion, empathy, and kindness from yourself towards your own heart. You have to be brave enough to forgive yourself for all the mistakes you have made and all the chances you didn't take. Like all the other forms of love, you will learn to love yourself by practicing self-love. Just sit with that for a minute. Maybe rewind this and listen to it again. It's such a beautiful, beautiful quote. You will learn to love yourself by practicing self-love. It's like a muscle, and you have to flex it. And you have to tell yourself every day, you look in that mirror. And maybe it hurts to say, I love you to yourself. Maybe that doesn't feel good. Maybe it's uncomfortable, but just sit with it. Allow it to be what it is. Here's another one. Let's see here. I loved this one. Life is too short to spend it at war with yourself. And that is so true. I'm really proud of myself for working through those feelings of hating myself. And at one point, I almost wanting to hurt myself. I had tried at one point. I hated myself that much. There was so much hate in my heart. And it was a very tough time. It wasn't always just, happiness and pure joy and, oh, I love myself today. And I think once I learned how to love myself, I started posting about it on Facebook all the time and sharing it. And I just became that person for people. Oh, Sarah's a positive person. Sarah loves herself. Sarah is body goals. Sarah, back when I was a little bit fitter than I am right now, being honest. Sarah is so positive. Sarah has so much confidence. And I did because I found that muscle and I started flexing it. I started looking at myself every day saying, I love you. I started moving my body, moving my mind, helping other people, stepping into my truth, what I knew I wanted and who I wanted to be. I saw that and I became that. And it felt good. And it took a lot of work. And guess what? Sometimes we go a little backwards. And I think that's okay. I think that we sometimes get this very twisted. Sometimes we look in the mirror and be picking at our arm and picking at our stomach and, oh, your butt's too big. I don't actually think that's a real thing, but, just picking and pulling and tugging on clothes that don't feel like they look good or they don't fit right or whatever the case may be. And we get so caught up in saying like, oh, I want to lose 50 pounds. Oh, I want this. I want that with my body. But there is a beauty. And I think the only way you can truly lose weight and keep off the weight, like this is going to sound crazy. Some of you are going to be like, okay, I'm not listening to this girl. She's crazy. Or get off my podcast, whatever. But I think that able for us to lose weight, number one, in a healthy way, gain a healthy mind, gain a healthy lifestyle, we have to be okay with where we are right now. We have to meet ourselves where we are right now. You can't tell me that you're going to lose 50 pounds and then love yourself, because it ain't true. Because then you're going to be looking in the mirror and saying, well, what about another 10? Another 5, and then I'll really be happy with my body. Get out of here, girlfriend. That is a lie. And we both know it. Love yourself right where you are today. That is not saying that you don't want to change. I love myself today, but I have a lot I want to change. And that's fair. And that is okay, because nobody makes the rules. You're in charge, right? I'm in charge of me. Here's another one I want to read to you guys that, it hit me, and I cried. It was so beautiful. And it was a letter. And it says, a letter to myself is what it's called. It says, Dear me, I am sorry. I'm sorry that I tried so desperately to fix others when your own hands were shaking. I'm sorry that I didn't give you enough time to heal, that I let you seal the wounds of everyone else while your own were bleeding. I'm sorry that there were days when smiling hurt, but you forced yourself to laugh so that way no one had to worry about you. I'm sorry that you gave all of your time and effort to people that didn't give the same amount back. I'm sorry there were nights when you cried yourself to sleep and no one bothered to understand why. And I am sorry, so sorry, that I did not love you like you deserved to be loved. Like, man, that is deep, right? That's so deep. And once again, that's what self-love is. I think these bath bombs and face masks and manis and petties and massages, they're a beautiful thing, and there's a time and place for everything, but they're just scraping the surface. You have to sit with yourself in quiet. And tell me how that feels. Tell me how that feels. It's tough, right? You just sit there in complete silence and allow yourself to be whatever it is. Allow yourself to think and feel whatever it is. You cannot find your voice if all you're doing is echoing everybody else's voice. How are you ever going to be you? I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. I really struggled. I struggled with what else what I was going to say on this topic. If you haven't been following me on Facebook, please go over there and follow. But it's one of those things that I've talked about so much, and it had helped so many people that I almost felt like lost. Like, what else is there to say? But then I just remembered, like, the whole point of this podcast is to just share my journey with you guys and the things that I have gone through and the things that I know are real and raw and honest. And I just wanted to show the non-glamorous side. So I hope you guys you got something out of this. I hope you gained some kind of insight or maybe a tip that you had not thought of. But I want you to dive deep. Put down the damn face mask. Put it down and get out a journal and just sit there and think about whatever comes to mind. And think about, why can't I look in the mirror and say that I love myself? What is it that's bothering me? What is it that I just absolutely hate about myself? And then I want you to write down all the things that are good about you. And if you think that you can't figure out a single one, then girlfriend, reach out to me or reach out to a friend, because I guarantee you there is something you're missing or you're not seeing. Just like every podcast, I want to end this one in some self-love affirmations. These are things you can say out loud, look into the mirror and say, maybe write on your mirror, maybe journal about them, but they're just some things that'll make you feel good about self-love. And maybe this right here will help you with your self-love journey. Okay, here we go. I choose to stop apologizing for being me. I release negative self-talk. I love the person I am becoming. I believe in myself and my abilities. I deserve all good things. I am powerful. I accept myself unconditionally. I acknowledge my own self-worth. I am radiant. I am enough. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode as much as I really have enjoyed making it for you, even though there was that struggle there. One thing I just had been thinking about was a challenge. And I want this challenge, I want you to try it for like a week or two. And then I want you to send me a message or post in my self-love group on Facebook. And for this challenge, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go a whole entire day without saying something bad about yourself. And the minute you catch yourself saying something bad, you replace it. You replace it with a positive. So an example would be you look in the mirror like, ugh, my hair is just a mess today. Instead, replace it with something good. Like, man, my outfit is banging today. Whatever the case may be, it can be deeper than that. But just replace one bad with a good. And try to catch yourself doing that. All right, guys, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode. And I hope some of it made sense. It's just something that was kind of on my mind. But I hope you guys all have a fabulous week. And remember, more self-love, baby girl.